I've been praying to Hashem that He should help me find the right Rebbe to guide me. I'm looking for a tzaddik, a role model, someone to connect to and help me turn my avodas Hashem into a way of life, to make my speech, thoughts, and actions dedicated to serving Hashem, to give me clarity in my life's mission. Afterwards, the Rav gave an incredible out-of-this-world shir. It took me to a place where I felt Hashem's light. It wasn't just an intellectual shir, it was Hashem's light. After the lecture, I went over to the Rav. I said, I am so much pain. Right now, it was so bad I needed to cry. I told him it feels like daggers penetrating into my body. My name is Yaakov Yisrael. I live in Yerushalayim. For about 12 years, I've been searching for a role model, a person of greatness. I'm sure everyone is. We were raised in the home of Torah scholars. We grew up listening to stories of Tzadikim from the Gemara Mishnah, from the Tzadikim of our generation. Listening to stories was how we woke up in the morning and how we went to sleep at night. It was something that always preoccupied our minds. I was searching for a true role model. Hashem has given me the opportunity to be close to many tzaddikim in Yerushalayim and Bnei Brak. I was close to Rav Asher Freund, a true tzaddik. He was a famous personality in Yerushalayim. I loved listening to him. I liked his style. He was open and extremely clear how one should serve Hashem. We had a group that was called the Friendship Group. There were many students, even exceptional people, who I'm still in contact with until today. This was a way of life that I really connected to. There was a tzaddik, Rabbi Yehuda from Bnei Brak. I was very close to him. It was an amazing relationship. He was also very clear and sharp. I also was very into the teachings of rabbis from the previous generations, like Reb Moshe Mordechai of Levlov, and I related to him very well, and the Baba Sali. There are people who really guided me and whom I'm always thought about during the course of the day.
ככה התגלגלתי, מעל לאטם, הייתי רם בישיבה, מלמד בתלמוד תורה, וככה.
I became a teacher in a school in Tel Zion called Masila. Now it's called Chanicha Yeshivas Darchei Moshe. About 2 years ago, one of my colleagues who I am close to started talking to me about Rav Shlomo Yehuda, also known as the Yanuka. He tells me that there's a particular tzaddik you really should connect to. He knows I'm always trying to find a tzaddik to connect to. You have to meet Rav Shlomo Yehuda. He is young, around 30 years old, and knows the entire Torah. He knows every detail, every possible piece of information that exists, and it's all on the tip of his tongue. There is no Gaon like him. Truth is, when he told me all this, I didn't relate to it because this wasn't something I was looking for. I wasn't looking for a Gaon. I've seen a lot of Gaonim, and the truth is, when he told me all this, I didn't relate to it all because this wasn't something I was looking for. I wasn't looking for a Gaon. I've seen a lot of Gaonim, and what am I going to do with it? I'm not a Gaon in learning. I'm looking for a tzaddik that I can come close to. My friend keeps telling me, you don't understand, this person knows the whole entire Torah. I have been lucky, very lucky myself, to have been sitting and learning for many years, but this was not what I was looking for. It's not like I wasn't looking for Torah, but at this point I need Hashem to set me up with a person who has the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, who will ignite the deep inner part of me. That was the end of our conversation. I just pushed the whole thing off. A few weeks later, the same fellow told me that the Yanuka is giving a lecture, but I didn't go. He went, and when he came back, he was so excited and told me all about it, but it just didn't resonate with me. Then again, at a later point in time, he came over to me and said, listen, you must come and hear one of his lectures. For some reason that I still don't understand, I had a feeling deep down in my heart that I should go. Yankee, go to this shir. And I went. It was going to be in Rishon LeZion, and they had arranged travel accommodations from my neighborhood to the lecture in Rishon. I was going without any preconceived intentions. I never imagined that this was going to be the tzaddik I was searching for. I figured I was going to just be amazed by his incredible wisdom, to hear somebody who can give over Torah and knows the entire Torah. Now that would be something worth hearing. I went with a very open mind. I davened to Hashem and said, listen, Hashem, you know I have been searching for somebody to connect with and to give me direction to make my service of Hashem meaningful and to be able to apply it in a practical way with absolute clarity. Like the Tzadikim I knew, but already passed away. Now I need someone I can have access to today.
אבל זה ככה, בלב שלי אולי זה מצחיק.
In my heart I was saying, people may think this is funny, but I was talking to Hashem with honesty and openness, saying, you know that I've been following the path of the Baal Shem Tov, and I don't want to change this path. It's been very healthy and positive for me. If this tzaddik is connected to the Baal Shem Tov and his teachings, then that will be the right person for me. And if not, I'm sure he's a big tzaddik. I can't take another direction now. The first change I made in my life was very drastic and very good for me. I can't make another change. It has been fantastic for me. I'm following the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, and that's the way I'm going to be my entire life. Hashem, if this tzaddik is connected to the Baal Shem Tov, then show me. I can connect to him, just show me. But being that he's a gon and his knowledge of Torah is so vast, where do I fit in here? So I went. I never imagined how connected he would be. When I arrived there at the shir, this was about 1 year and 4 months ago. It was in Tammuz 2019. The Rav enters to give his shir, and you see a very young-looking man. The truth is, what impressed me immediately was the expression on his face. You could see this very humble, modest, and simple person. This was not just the way he presented himself before Hashem, but this was the way he presented himself in front of hundreds of people all around him. He was surrounded by over 300 people in the shul in Rishon. And if anybody knows the shul in Rishon, it can only hold about 300 people. His presence was so impressive. Now that I think back to that moment, I now know that this is his normal demeanor. When you see him, you feel and see someone so humble and simple. This really grabbed me. The Rav was about to start his lecture, but he was totally silent for 5 minutes. I'm looking around wondering what's going on. Isn't he going to give a shir? He greets some of the people and says shalom, and I'm still waiting. Ribono shalom. I see there's a book sitting on the table, and he's looking at it, and he asks, who wrote this book? So somebody points out one of the people sitting there, and the rabbi says to him, wow, yasher koyach, yasher koyach. He continues looking, and as he is reading, he says, it's a letter from the Baal Shem Tov. This person wrote an explanation on the letter to help understand the depths of the Baal Shem Tov. The Yanuka spent about a half an hour giving a lecture all about this letter of the Baal Shem Tov. I was amazed. Here I was waiting for this incredible shir of Torah from a gon, and instead I'm hearing a half an hour lecture from the rabbi all about the letter of the Baal Shem Tov. This was such an obvious sign from heaven for me that the Rav is talking about the Baal Shem Tov. Here I was coming to hear a shir from this great Gaon who knows the entire Torah, and he spends a half an hour on the letter of the Baal Shem Tov. This really grabbed me. This was Hashem's light. I never expected this from this tzaddik. Yes, he gave a Torah shir that was mind-boggling, but to spend a half an hour on a letter and give a shir about it, this was the power of the Baal Shem Tov. And that he gave a shir just to make the person feel good, the one who wrote the commentary on the letter. This wasn't just a letter. This was Torah, and Torah that we needed to learn from. I felt incredibly taken by the Rav shir. I couldn't say at this point that this is my Rebbe, and that's it. But I needed to at least try to start having a relationship with him. Every week on Monday, there was a shir in Rishon. So I traveled each and every Monday to that shir, and they were incredible and mind-boggling shiurim. Unfortunately, over the past months, there hasn't been a shir because of the virus. They were unbelievable shiurim, packed with an endless amount of Torah from every source you can imagine. I want to share with you a very incredible episode that I had with the Rav. Even though normally the Tzadikim don't change the norm or what seems to be the natural events of the world, but there are times that they get involved using their energies and their powers that Hashem gave over to them. And there are things that they can do in certain ways by connecting to Hashem. It is known that there are Tzadikim that are able to change the natural way of the world. The entire world is laid in front of them. I want to share a very personal experience that I lived through for many years. I had terrible intestinal problems with excruciating pains, sometimes so painful that I couldn't even describe the pain. There were episodes that made me bedridden for days at a time, to the point that I couldn't even move. About 5 or 6 years ago, I had a terrible intestinal attack with such crazy pains that I had to go to the hospital. There was a professor that took care of me. He was able to help me a little bit as I tried all different types of treatments. Also, my family gave me medicines to take to make my intestines a little bit more healthy. And for some time, the pain actually became less. So at least it was something I could deal with. I sort of learned how to manage the pain. I had to be in certain positions so I wouldn't have pains at certain times.
לפני שנה וחצי, פחות משנה וחצי.
About a year and a half ago, which was 2 months before I met the Yanuka, I had a terrible episode like the time I went to the hospital. The pains were so terrible that I couldn't sit or stand. When I would stand, it hurt so much I had to sit. And after I would be sitting, I once again felt excruciating pains. During the breaks, I had to just stay in the classroom and sit in the chair and not move.
מאוד קשה להתיישב ולעמוד. היה הרבה תנועות שהיו קשות לי, אבל בעיקר היה קשה שהיה לי חם, ושהייתי מתיישב ועומד, זה היה כאבים שקשה לתאר.
My students had to help me stand up, and then they had to help me sit back down, and that's how I taught my class. They had to pick me up by my arms to help me move into a position where I felt no pain.
עכשיו, זה לא כל הזמן היה בכזה.
The pains were not always so strong, but there was always an underlying constant pain. Every now and then I would experience terrible pains like daggers in my intestines. I went to a bunch of different doctors. Each one gave me a different treatment with no results. I went to a specialist in Pisgat Zev. I told him the whole story, and after the examination he said, "This is a very complicated case, and to be honest, I don't really have the answer for you or any specific treatment, but I'll start you on a very intense regimen of medications, and let's see if this helps. If it doesn't work after 2 weeks, then I'm sorry to say you'll have no choice but to have surgery." I heard what he had to say, took his advice, followed his directions, took the medications, and went on my way.
ויצאתי לדרך. באותו זמן בדיוק.
That exact time is when I met the Rav.
השבועיים עברו ביום...
2 weeks passed, and it was Monday, and the Rav was going to give a shiur. I was taking all the medications, but it didn't help at all. When I got a very bad pain, I would take the medications. It would help maybe for a half an hour, but it came back just like it was before. I was really suffering from pain. I went to the shiur anyway. It was extremely crowded, standing room only in the shul in Rishon. I tried taking notes of the shiur, but in the middle I had excruciating pains. I couldn't get them under control. It was warm and a bit stuffy inside, which added to my discomfort. It was hard for me to sit. I needed to stand up. I continued listening and writing, but it came to a point where I just had to leave because the pain was unbearable. I lost the flow of the shiur, and I walked outside over to a very airy, open area. After about 20 minutes or so, I was able to go back to the shiur, but was still in terrible pain. The entire time I tried listening and paying attention, but it was very difficult. I lost my concentration, and especially the Rav, he connects everything together. Even though he quotes from many different sources, in the end, everything comes together like a perfect puzzle. I couldn't put it together. I missed too much. After the shiur, there's an opportunity to go for a bracha and speak to the Rav. You can speak very openly with him also. Sometimes he can be speaking with people until 4 in the morning, even later. I waited in line for my turn like everyone else. And if there would be somebody outside who didn't think he would even have a chance to speak to the Rav would make sure to bring him in and give him a chance to speak with him. The line starts with older people. Then you have the Rabbanim, followed by the rest of the crowd. So my turn came, and I asked the Rav for a bracha. He held my hand, and he gave me a bracha, and I said, "Kavod Rav, I want to request a special bracha from the Rav. I've been having terrible intestinal problems, very painful episodes, and tomorrow I have an appointment with the professor whether or not I need to have an operation. I beg of the Rav to give me a bracha. I'm in so much pain, and he blessed me, but it felt like it was just a regular bracha. I was in so much pain that I said to myself, no, I'm not leaving here until I get a special bracha. While we're talking, I had excruciating pains. I could hardly stand up and speak. And I said to the Rav, I feel like I have daggers stabbing me inside. I need a bracha for now. Now I need the bracha for my situation now. The Rav grabbed my hands. You could feel his penetrating look as he was staring into my eyes. He said to me, it is forbidden that there should be any pain to a Jew. You cannot have or feel any pain, chas v'shalom. And he told me that in the merit of the Holy Torah, I bless you. He closed his eyes. He gave me a bracha with such intensity, saying that now you will have no more pain. You will have no need for surgery, no need for doctors. Everything will be as it never happened. Now I felt like this was the bracha I was waiting for. And I said, thank you, and I left the room. I walked outside, it was about 3 in the morning, and I was still amazed about the sheer. It was so incredible, the Rav. I started feeling a connection to the Rav over the past few weeks. And now even closer, I had really love in my heart for the Rav. I started walking, and about 5 minutes into my walk, still overwhelmed from the sheer and all the people and the Torah, I needed to digest it all. I suddenly realized that I didn't feel any pain. Now you must understand, I've had this unbearable pain for a very long time, and it's always some kind of underlying pain. And I've been here listening to a shir for 5 hours, and I was in excruciating pain. But now I feel no pain, nothing at all. I didn't really pay attention to it, but I'm not in pain. There are times that I have to go into certain positions to alleviate the pain, and now I don't feel anything. Well, it's time to go travel back to Yerushalayim, and you should know the worst times that I suffer is when I'm traveling. Traveling is always a big challenge. I always have to find the perfect position to be in while I travel so I won't be in pain. It's very difficult trying to figure out what position to sit in so I won't have pain. I'm always getting up and down and switching positions to avoid the pain. So I'm getting ready to sit down to find the right position that'll be the most pain-free, and I don't feel anything. I sit down and the pain isn't there. I change positions and still no pain. I think I'm dreaming. It can't be that over the past few months the pain has been so horrible and now I'm sitting down like a regular person. It's not even registering in my brain that I'm not in pain. I'm trying to find out like where the pain is. I can't find it, so I intentionally went into a position that I know always hurts me and there's no pain. I know there's got to be pain somewhere. There's always pain. I'm overwhelmed by the fact that I'm not in pain. I'm in shock. I'm afraid to share this with any of the fellows around me. What am I going to tell them? That tomorrow I have this appointment about my operation. Now the whole thing's just disappeared. It's all over. No more pain. I'm finished. I started telling myself, wow, look at the power of the bracha of a tzaddik. I was very emotional about it. I was all choked up while I was thinking about it. And I kept telling myself, wow, there must be pain somewhere. Then I'm telling myself, what? Where's your Emunah? Where's your belief in the power of Tzadikim? Why are you trying to show that it's not possible? You always believed in Tzadikim. You grew up knowing the power of bracha that the Tzadikim have. Okay, I said to myself, I believe, and I went home. I got home, my wife was already in bed, almost asleep. It was around 3:30 in the morning. She asked me, how was the shir? I said, oh, it was unbelievable. It was mind-boggling how I love this Rav. He is so unreal. I didn't even get to the point about my pain in the whole story. A few minutes later, I went to sit down on my bed. Now, you understand, when I sit on my bed, I have to sit in a very specific position, and it takes time. Meanwhile, it's going through my mind that I'm not in pain. I sit down regular on the chair, and my wife is staring at me, and she says, Yanki, what happened to you? How are you able to sit like that? Doesn't hurt you? I tell her, don't ask. I have to tell you, I have no more pain, nothing. And she looks at me like I fell off the moon. I said, very emotionally, I got a bracha from the Rav. Then from a place of extreme emotion, I said, come look. I got up from my chair. I started jumping and dancing. Look, nothing hurts. I don't feel the slightest pain whatsoever, as if I never had any pain in my intestines. The next morning, I decided not to go to the doctor, and until today, I haven't gone. 1.5 years later, no pain, no medications, no operations, as if I never suffered from pain in my life. From the moment I got the bracha from the Yanuka, no pain. It sounds amazing, like a story from the Baal Shem Tov. Yeah, you're right, this is like a story of the Baal Shem Tov. I don't feel connected to the Yanuka because of his bracha. I became close to the Yanuka because of his lofty level of ruchnius. Not that I understand levels, but this is the type of tzaddik I imagined about all the years. The tzaddikim of the Baal Shem Tov. These are the tzaddikim that are crying out to Hashem. They connect their avoda and their learning and their incredible grasp of the entire Torah to Hashem. It all comes together. It's one entity, having the constant awareness of Hashem, that He is right in front of us. That is the tzaddik. We are so privileged to have such a relationship, and this is my personal relationship with the Yanuka.